So let's start today's lectures. In that we'll discuss about the group by remaining part of group by. After that we will do some challenges and afterwards we'll learn about having clause. After we'll do having clause challenges and after that I will provide a assessment one or assignment one. So you need to perform that assessment. So starting the having clause, let's quickly revise regarding the having clause. Suppose consider that if you want to retrieve the data along with the category, then we need to use the having clause. Okay. So for example, let's do here select all from payment and we'll limit to the payment. Or just we need to analyze the records or rows inside that table. Okay. So when we think that, suppose if you want to perform such operation on that particular attribute, a group by operation on particular attribute, we need to analyze it. Okay. So for example, here customer ID is there, staff ID is there, rental ID is there, amount is there. So in that case, we can use group by for customer ID, staff ID, and we can use the group by for the rental ID also. We cannot able to do the group by for the payment. What is the reason behind that? Because in that payment section the date along sorry the in that date section the date along with timestamp is available. So for that we cannot able to do the operation of group by on that date. Okay, but if you want to perform, then we need to remove this timestamp and afterwards we can do the operation on that group by. Okay, so date पे भी हम operation कर सकते हैं, but just we need to do what? We need to remove this timestamp. Okay, so before that, what? Just I want to retrieve the data who's associated with amount. Okay, so for example, I have two staff ID, staff ID 1 and staff ID 2. So what should I do? We'll do one operation in that section. We'll use group by for staff ID and we'll count how many amounts are associated with that particular staff ID. Okay, so here select all. Instead of that, here I will use a staff underscore ID comma, and just before doing any operation just use as it is staff ID. So whenever we use the group by thing, then automatically it will perform the distinct operation. Okay, so here I'm using a select staff ID from payment. Here I will use a group by. Afterwards, group by, here I will use group by using a staff ID and then that section will select the staff ID from the payment and group by using a staff ID. So we get the certain data regarding only staff ID. When we click on that, we get only staff ID. Okay, see, whenever we perform the group by operation, automatically it will find the distinct value. Okay, we already know about the distinct clause. In that, the duplicates amounts are removed. Okay, so another section we required the sum of payments. So for that, here I will use sum. In that, we'll use the attribute called as amount. Okay, now when we click on that, the payments will be associated. Sum, we already know that this aggregation function, it will calculate the sum of all rows, okay, which will be associated with your staff ID. So staff ID will perform the operation and they did the payment of 30,252.12 like that. So make a note of that. Just we need to use this operation. If you require this data in the descending order, we all know that we have an option of order by. Order by. Here we'll use DESC. For which table we require to use? We require to use for what? Staff ID. So here what should I do? Here I will use staff. Now when we perform that, we get the descending order there. Like that we can able to perform the operation. So this is the theoretical concept and practical concept of group by. Now next we'll do some different kinds of operations, so you will get the more knowledge regarding that. Now I want to apply the group by function or group by clause with a date. I already discussed about that when we perform this operation. For example, here I will want to print select all from payment table, okay, and limit that record up to 2. Okay, I don't want to retrieve all the records. So when we perform that operation, when I trying to use payment date as a category, we have an problem. Then we need to analyze that what is the problem here. In that payment date we have a date along with a timestamp. For example, 2020 22 o'clock 25 minutes 56 seconds and something nanoseconds, or what we say, there's some unique information is that. So we have this bunch amount of data are available and we cannot able to perform the group by operation. When I trying to perform, we get the error. Okay, so when I trying to perform on which date, how much amount will be how much what we say transaction will be completed. So if you want to find that, then we need to use payment date as your category, and if you're trying to use the category, we get the error because of this timestamp. Okay, so when I'm trying to use, see, select, and I'm use payment underscore date. From payment I will remove this group by, and here I will use group by payment underscore date. And we try to execute that, see, we get this time tabs along with that. And when I trying to perform the other operation, for example, on which date we perform the operation, okay, we get an error. We get an error, but because we did not get the actual value, okay. So here we get the combined value. That means date along with the timestamp. So first of all, what should we need to do? We need to remove this timestamp. First of all, what should we need to do? First of all, we need to remove this timestamp, and after that, we can able to do the operation. Okay, so let's do that. Symbol. So we get that problem. So while using the date, we have problem with the date timestamp. So once we remove timestamp, then we can easily apply the concept of group by with date. Okay. So how will convert the date? Just we need to call the date function. Okay. Just we need to call the date function. For example, here we need to call the date function, and after that we need to provide the attribute of the payment date. So here is a payment date. So let's say that here is a payment underscore. When I'm trying to execute C, we get only dates. We get the only dates. We did not get any timestamp. Now we can able to perform the operation. Okay. So we get the actual time. For example, on the date of 15th of Feb 2007, how many transactions are did on by using a staff customer on reference of sales one, sales manager one, sales manager two, or sales staff one, sales staff two. Like that stuff we can able to perform the operation. So we have this issue with timestamp. Now we remove that dependency, or we can say that timestamp from the date function. Just we are select, after that we are preferring the date function, and after that we'll propose the attribute, and after that we retrieve the data. Now what is the solution if you want to retrieve the data, and if you want to perform the operation, then we need to do what? We require to perform certain operation. Okay, so right now when we're trying to check, see, here some duplicates values are available. When I trying to see 16 Feb 2007 is there, 16 Feb 2007 is there, again 16 is there. That means we don't have a unique value. Either we can use the distinct, or either we can use another technique. But in that section, when I trying to use what group by, then automatically the value will be in the form of distinct. Make a note of that. So मैं जब भी group by use करने की कोशिश करूंगा, तो मेरी values क्या होंगे? पूरे के पूरे group by के अंदर as it is मेरे what we say distinct values रहेंगे. So for example, select date payment date. From payment, here just we do group by, and here I will use as it is date in round bracket payment date. Why we use the as it is? Because we need to apply the operation on this table payment date and converted payment date. So that's why here we as it is we use payment underscore date. And when I'm trying to hit that, okay, so we get the unique values. Now you can check 14, 19, 20. Why we require unique values? Because we need to find some proper solution. For example, on 20 Feb 2007, how many transactions are did? So if we have a duplicate values, then how will we add that value? So for that reason, we require a distinct value. So make a note of that. Whenever we perform a group by operation, automatically the value will be automatically the value will be in single format, or we can say that distinct format. Right now all the values will be distinct. So what we need to do, we need to perform an operation. So we require to just display the records on which date how many transaction will be done. So we need to perform that operation. So for that we require amount table. So we'll perform what, sum of amount. So sum of amount, and we don't want to worry about that other anything. So we get the actual data on which date how many transaction of payment were done. So on the 14th of Feb, the customer did $116.73. Okay, they did that operation. Okay, so when I trying to use over here, for example, just I want to use what staff ID also. So I will use what staff, so ID. We get that staff ID, and we group by also staff ID. So we can use a bulk amount of columns as a group by. So when we perform that, so we get the staff ID also. So what should we do? We'll use staff ID for the just make as it is. Don't worry about that. Just when we organize it, यहाँ भी हम कर सकते हैं. Don't worry about that. I'm trying to execute. Perfect नहीं हो मतलब. Now we get that. ठीक है. Just I want to do what मुझे staff ID starting में चाहिए. So that's why. So see, the staff ID one did the transaction of 20 March 2007. Okay, so the data is not in ascending order. So we all know that how we'll do that. कैसे करना है हमें ascending order में. So here for date, here for the date, we need to perform what, the operation of ascending, but we cannot able to do that. Why? Because this date is different kinds of function. Okay, so no, in that date we can do that. Okay, so date is a function, but when we're trying to say when we perform an aggregate function, okay, when we perform an aggregate function, in that section we cannot able to apply the where clause. Okay, so that's why I said it cannot be work. But make a note of that. Here we get the successful data on that particular date. Such amount of transaction will be done on that particular day. Such amount of transaction will be done. So like that stuff we can use the group by. Okay, so hope so we will get the idea regarding the group by. Now we'll do the some challenges. Suppose user wants to find the transaction done on particular date. We already did that. ये particular date पे अगर करना है तो we need to use these things. And I will suggest one more thing. Just you need to do many tasks, many operation. So because this DBMS is a very vast subject, so we need to do many more practice. So you will get the better idea. And if you forgot the practice, then automatically the concept will lose the confidence. So we cannot able to get the confidence while appearing for the interview. For that reason, you need to perform more and more practice. So it's a challenge one for what the group by statement, and here I have three challenges for the group by. I think so, two or three challenges for the group by. I don't know. We'll start for the having clause. So we have two staff members. So carefully listen that. This one is a business situation, and this one is a question. So we have two staff member with ID 1 and ID 2. We want to give a bonus to the staff member that handled most payment. Okay, most in terms of number process, not to the dollar amount. Okay, so we need to require to display ID1 how many requests or how many what we say payments handles. ID2 how many we have only two IDs. Make a note of that. Okay, we have only two staff sales IDs. Staff ID is nothing but salesman one and salesman two. So just we need to display the count number. Okay, so how many payment did each staff member handle and who gets the bonus? Bonus तो दोनों को भी मिलने वाला है because ऑलरेडी दो ही ऑलरेडी कस्टमर है हमारा सॉरी स्टाफ है हमारे पास सेल्समैन है हमारे पास so just we need to count what how many payments did each staff this is the main question so ये staff payments where we get that hint option क्या रहेगा we get that information in what we get that information what payment table so in that the payment is there amount is there staff id is there so the main attribute will be the staff id and just we require to use the count as amount okay and we all know that whenever we use a count instead of that attribute amount we can use a asterisk so like that we can do the operation so this one is here use payment table and use difference between sum and count okay so majorly यहाँ बच्चे गलती करते हैं see they said in round bracket most in terms of number of process not in dollars so that means we cannot able to perform addition or cannot able to perform the summation okay so instead of that we need to perform what we need to count that okay so I will show you the demo for that so you will get the better idea regarding that so here I will remove it so I will first select all from the table name called as a payment and I will restrict the response that see we get that data so we required a staff id and we required the amount okay we required the staff id and we required the amount is not in actually form of the dollar okay we required suppose he is a customer one who did the payment he is a customer 341 who did the payment of $1.99 along with the staff id one okay, that means the one transaction will be completed uh, customer ID 341 is there who did the transaction of 7.99 dollar and along with a staff ID 2 he completes the second transaction like that we need to count the transactions only so make a note of that okay sometimes क्या होता है कि एक tricky question interview में पूछा जाता है और instead of that option we need to calculate the sum okay so I will show you both the things don't worry about that we require a count that's main okay so how much and how many there are two different things फाइंड एंड हाउ मेनी ऐसा कुछ आया तो वो आपको पता है कि फाइंड मतलब पर्टिकुलर डेटा रिकॉर्ड करना है काउंट करना है मतलब हाउ मेनी लाइक दैट स्टफ वी नीड टू आइडेंटिफाई दैट so here we'll select my attribute as a staff id I don't want to use a customer id so required to use a staff id from a table payment and here we'll do the group by so we require to get all the data in proper format or we can say that in the distinct format okay we did not get in duplicate values inside that staff id click on that select staff id from the payment group by what group by we need to specify the attribute name staff id click on that so we have unique only two staffs this is the basic thing we have only two star and we need to provide a bonus for both the star, both the salesman but important thing is that we need to count how many payments he process okay so salesman ने कितना customer को handle किया है we need to count that okay so for that we need to do what here I will use count okay and round bracket we need to use asterisk symbol or we can use the amount also don't worry about it we can use amount also so in that section we need to just count okay and just hit that data so we get the actual count see customer staff id 1 did the process and did the handle the request of 7,292 customers, and staff ID 2 handle the customer 7,300. Okay, if you're trying to use only sum, okay, यहाँ confusion में अभी this is the proper solution, ये हमारा solution है वही problem का. See question, we have how many payment did each staff members handle and who gets the bonus. Both the employee gets the donuts and bonus, and the first employee will handle the they did handle the we say the customer of 7,292, and customer staff ID to handle the customer of 7,003, like that they can handle. So see the jumbling कहाँ होती है ये मैं दिखाता हूँ आपको. So if you're trying to use a sum of amount, why we use a sum amount? Why? Because यहाँ क्या बोला है कि the staff member handle most payment. मतलब आप imagine क्या करते हो कि most payment मतलब we need to calculate the एडिशन. ओके, कितने दोनों में से कितने, फॉर एग्जांपल कस्टमर वन ने स्टाफ वन ने कितनी पेमेंट्स, ये जो ट्रांजेक्शन है 7,292, ओके, along with इसने कितने सम किए, सो वी कैन यूज व्हाट, यूज काउंट आल्सो. So much. Okay, so you get the idea regarding that. See, staff one handle the this much amount of what customers, and this one is a summation, or we can say that the addition of payment. Okay, and we get that. So confusion में क्या होता है कि आप ये जो sum दिख रहा है आपको, तो यही display कर देते हो. We required to use only count. Okay, so depending on the condition you need to analyze. So hope so you will get the idea regarding that. So this one is a challenge one. And use payment table, differentiate, understand the difference between the sum and count. यहाँ confusion हो सकता है, इसलिए मैंने specially लिखा है. After that expected result 7,292, 7,304 वही आया हमारा, and this one is a solution. Okay, this one is a solution. यहाँ मैंने एक additional order by staff ID डाला है, because मेरे पास जब आंसर आया था in that case descending order पे था, so यहाँ ascending order में है. Okay, so don't worry about that. So that's order by staff ID and ascending order, इतना ही लिखा है. Okay, so did you get that question? What is the question? So this one is your challenge one. Did you get that? You need to perform this task. Huh? You need to perform that task. So did you get that challenge, or does anyone have a query regarding that? So now what should I do? I will give two challenge for you. Just snapshot it, and you need to perform that operation. Okay. And afterwards, also I will provide one assignment first for the assessment first for our uh, पार्ट टू के लिए हम फर्स्ट असाइनमेंट भी आज देने वाले हैं. सो यू नीड टू कंप्लीट दैट असेसमेंट. ओके, सो इफ यू वांट टू बिकम अ डीबी एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर और डीबी डेवलपर, ओके, बनना है तो आपके लिए ये टास्क बहुत ही जरूरी. सेकंड, सो आई विल नॉट प्रोवाइड अ सॉल्यूशन फॉर दैट, जस्ट स्नैपशॉट इट. In corporate headquarter is conducting a study on the relationship between the replacement cost and movies. We already did that. So ये हमें movies and कहाँ है replacement cost film table में. So उनको क्या करना है, relationship between replacement cost and movie ratings पे चाहिए. Okay, like GPGR. Okay. So what is the average replacement cost per MPP MPAA rating? So यहाँ solution में मतलब question में ही solution दिया है. So what is the average replacement cost per MPA? Okay, MPAA. Okay, ये मोशन पिक्चर एसोसिएशन, अमेरिका ऑफ एसोसिएशन है. सो इनको क्या करना है, जस्ट दे नीड टू यूज एमपीवीए रेटिंग विद रिप्लेसमेंट कॉस्ट. सो यू मे नीड टू एक्सपेंड द एवरेज कॉलम टू व्यू द करेक्ट रिजल्ट. दैट मीन्स हियर वी नीड टू यूज द एग्रीगेट फंक्शन एट द एवरेज. दैट्स इट, इतना ही है. और आपको पता है ये टेबल के अंदर क्या होता है, लाइक सिलेक्ट ऑल of table film is there, I think, and I will limit to respond all from the film, and I will use limit to 2. And here I'm trying to execute that, so what? All from file, not film. So we get the data. See, we get the data, and in that they said that Here is the replacement cost, and where is the rating? Yeah, this one is a rating. Just they need to what MPA rating. That means the category will be your rating. The category will be rating, and here we need to use the average function. Shall I give the solution for that, or you need to find? Just answer with chat box, yes or no, or shall I explain this challenge? Unmute yourself, or just chat box में बोला तो भी चलेगा. Don't worry. I'm audible to all. Explain. Okay. What about other Pratik? Are there? Om is there? Shruti, yeah. What's up, student? Ankita. What's up, students are there? Pareshwar. So did they get all the concept, or shall I explain? Please explain. Okay, we'll explain that question, and for next question I will not explain. You need to do the task for that. Okay, I have a challenge three also. Now you need to perform this operation. So for first of all, we need to open that table and understand the things. So select all from the film. So in that we have option of replacement cost and we have option of rating. So we need to retrieve these two things only. So they said that for R, okay, assume that select all from the film only. So we'll analyze more table. Okay. So these are the tables and here these are the replacement cost and this one is the rating. Okay, so see R is duplicate. R have a duplicate value. That means ये दोनों का addition करके average निकालना है. This was a question. Okay, so for that just first of all हम rating को क्या करेंगे, category consider करेंगे and we apply the aggregate function on replacement cost. Just we need to analyze. हमें analyze करना है कि हमें aggregate किस पे लगाना है, क्या लगाना है, then ही हम understand कर सकते हैं. और additional अगर आपको लगता है कि टाइटल भी चाहिए तो यू कैन ऐड दिस बट दैट इज अ नो नेसेसिटी according to question there is a no necessity of that. So just first of all check the what will be the expected answer so you will get the better idea. So see you get the idea regarding PG 13 R and C17 and we get the average values. Okay, so like that, so you will need to perform the operation. So let's start with that. So here we required a category as a rating. So I will use a rating. I don't want to you perform any other operation for till now because we require a distinct value. So in rating we have a bunch amount of duplicate values. So first of all, what should we do? We'll use the group by clause. So automatically the value will be in the form of distinct. Okay. So select rating from the film. Here we'll use the group by attribute name is rating. So attribute name is already. So just try to execute get. So we get the unique value. See, we get the only unique value. We already know that by using distinct function, distinct clause, we can do the same operation. Now once task is completed, because see यहाँ आपको दिख रहा होगा left part will be completed. Okay, left part will be completed. अब ये प्रॉपर असेंडिंग डिसेंडिंग यूज करना पड़ता है तो ही दिखा देता है. अभी राइट नाउ नहीं है प्रॉपर असेंडिंग में. सो बट आउटपुट तो आना चाहिए ना. आउटपुट आने के बाद में हम डिजाइन पार्ट देखेंगे. So here what should we do? Here we'll use only replacement cost. So we'll do what? AVG average of replacement cost. Replacement. We have that table. We have that couple and afterwards we get the replacement cost of average along with this rating. So that means if we have a G as a 10 times, then it will add all G replacement cost and after that it will divide by the number. We get the average value. Okay, so हम ऐसे average value हमें मिलेगी. So just we need to click, so we get the output, get the value. And if you want to represent in a proper format, then here we need to use order by, and here we need to use an attribute called as a rating form of sending. Click on that. See, right now we get the output. होप सो यू विल गेट द आइडिया एंड ऐसे टास्क आपको परफॉर्म करने हैं। ओके, सो फॉरगेट अबाउट द योर थ्योरेटिकल सब्जेक्ट, ये डीबीएमएस आपको जो पढ़ने वाले हो आप, वो मैक्सिमम थ्योरी प्लस प्रैक्टिकल भी होता है, बट ये ऐसे थिंग्स उसमें इंक्लूडेड नहीं। सी सच अ टाइप ऑफ टास्क विल बी डन इन द कंपनी, सो दैट्स व्हाई आई प्रोवाइडेड दिस सॉल्यूशन। अभी ये सब टास्क ऑलरेडी कंपनी में परफॉर्म होते हैं। Okay. So आपको ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि नहीं आ रहा है, like didn't understand the concept of group buy and like that stuff. Okay, so in that case आप ये perform करो। Okay, so hope so. Just cross verify with answer. Did we get the same answer? G20, PG18, PG13, 2020. Them is only G, PG is 18. Rest of all are the 20. So see, PG is 18, rest of all are the 20. So we successfully verified we have executed that program. So, Shalki, so did you get the concept? Okay. Now, hope so you will get the idea regarding this problem. So, does anyone have query regarding that, or does anyone have to revise this session? जरूरत है कि कुछ अभी? So just we have a recorded a video. If you didn't get that, just watch that video and further perform more practical regarding that. Okay. So let's do another task. अभी ये task आपको करना है. Just I will help forward. समझने में help करूँगा या otherwise नहीं करूँगा. Challenge turn. So we are running a promotion to rewards our top five customer. What a question! We are running a promotional reward to our top five customer with a coupon. Top five customer. Assume that you have an e-commerce website. In that e-commerce website, just the customers are buying the products by paying the amount, and you will provide that product. Okay, just टॉप फाइव पर कस्टमर कैसे कंसिडर हो गए? अमाउंट से हो गए क्या? नहीं। टॉप फाइव कस्टमर कभी भी कैसे होते हैं कि जितने बार ट्रांजेक्शन आपने किया, वेदर इट इज 1 लाख, और एज्यूम दैट एक साल में एक ही ट्रांजेक्शन किया एंड 1 ईयर 1 लाख का, और इंस्टेड ऑफ दैट एक साल में 100 ट्रांजेक्शन किए 1 लाख के, डिफरेंस 500, 200, 1000, 2000, और उसकी सम 1 लाख आती है। तो कौन सा प्रॉम्प्ट यूजर है और कस्टमर है, रेगुलर कस्टमर है? सो वी कैन से दैट जो रेगुलर ट्रांजेक्शन करता है वही रेगुलर हो सकता है। सो लाइक दैट, व्हाट आर द फाइव कस्टमर आईडीज ऑफ टॉप फाइव कस्टमर्स, टोटल स्पेंड उनका सबसे ज्यादा बाय टोटल स्पेंड, ये आपको परफॉर्म करना है। डज यू रिक्वायर्ड एनी एक्सप्लेनेशन? डज यू रिक्वायर्ड एनी एक्सप्लेनेशन? Shall I solve this question also? Just analyze the question. Yes or no? Quickly answer in the chat box. झोपायचं नाहीये, आपल्याला रिप्लाय द्यायचा आहे. नाही तर इकडे लेक्चर चालू आहे आपलं आणि तिकडे काय चालू आहे काय माहिती नाही. प्रतीक सर, इट्स क्लियर. ओके, व्हाट अबाउट अदर? प्रसाद, योगेश्वरी, मनीषा, अर्चना, क्लियर? Kalyani. Okay, so you can do that practical, and I will not explain that practical. Just 1 minute, I will forward this slide. I have that solution, that's why. Now we'll do another clause, having clause, and this is very important clause. Okay, I tried not some time to make a note of that. First of all, we'll discuss the problem. Now you can check that here. See in the output. Here, see in the output we have a rating and we have average. Okay. What is that average? Average is an aggregation function. Aggregation function. Now my question is, if we trying to add condition on aggregate function, if we trying to add condition, how will I add the condition? By using where clause. That means if we trying to use where clause in aggregate function, then we get the error. Make a note of that. We get the error because we cannot able to apply the where clause after the group by operation. After group by we cannot able to apply the where clause. Okay, क्यों? Because where का टास्क पहले होता है और उसके बाद में filtering बाद में होता है. So that's why we cannot able to use. And if we're trying to use, we get the error. We get the error. Okay, so as it is program है, इस program के अंदर मुझे additional एक condition क्या लिखना है कि value must be greater than equals to 20. Value must be greater than equals to 20. So what should I do? Here we'll use by where by rating. Okay. Or here we use like before the group by. So where AVG. Okay. So what is AVG? Or we can say that as it is this function. AVG cost AVG cost greater than 20. Greater than 20. So when you're trying to use, see we get the error. Aggregate function are not allowed in where. We get the error. Aggregate function which are not allowed in the where. Now my question is, if we trying to add certain condition, if we're trying to add certain condition on aggregate function, then what should we do? For example, मुझे ये रिकॉर्ड कैसे चाहिए ताकि जो भी आउटपुट मुझे आ रहा है उसकी जो वैल्यूज है वो ग्रेटर देन 20 चाहिए. आई डोंट वांट टू यूज पीजी. मुझे ये पीजी नहीं यूज करना है because the value is 18. I want up to 20. Can I able to do that? No. Without where we cannot able to do that. And such a type of question 100% such a type of question up continuously answer there is. Just 1 minute. So now my question is, for suppose if you want to filter that data, suppose if you want to filter that data, then we need to use this thing. Okay, so like अभी मुझे इसमें कुछ work करना है, yeah, we can say that we need to work on the aggregate function. Then can I able to use where clause? The answer is no. Then what, which clause we need to use? The answer is where clause, sorry, having clause. So ये having clause जो होता है ना, we can apply the condition on aggregate function, and it is a specially designed for the aggregate function. We cannot able to use anywhere. We can use on the only aggregate function. And where we use the aggregate function? In the order, in the group by. In the group by. The having clause allows us to filter after aggregation has already taken place. The having clause is not applicable, is not applicable for aggregation function, is not is applicable for the aggregate function, is applicable for the aggregate function. Okay, so ये clause जो है only aggregate function के लिए allocated. So see here I'm trying to use where some amount is greater than 100 and we get the error. Aggregate function are not allowed in where. Where के अंदर हमें नहीं allowed. So how will do that operation? See, so I have that already given solution. So I can use over here. Okay, so मैं यहाँ use करता हूँ and just I will remove this order by. थोड़ा सा हम यहाँ रिमूव करते हैं. क्यों? क्योंकि हमारी क्यूरी बहुत बड़ी हो रही है. ओके, सो ग्रुप बाय रेटिंग एंड हियर विल यूज व्हाट having. See, having, and I will copy that attribute. Yes, I will add it and now I can provide the condition having AVG replacement cost greater than equal to 20, greater than equal to. From that, see, we get all 20 values. Where about the PG? NC and the value PG will be removed. PG remove होना चाहिए. See, trying to execute. When I do the PG remove होगा. PG 13 is available because जो 18 है वो remove होगा. So now we can perform the such a type of operation. Okay, let's quickly revise one application. एक छोटा सा program करते हैं, उसके अंदर हम having apply करते हैं. So just you will get the better idea. Select all from table called as a payment. And I will limit the क्या करना है पहले वो देखेंगे. And just I don't want to use a limit table. I want to use a customer table right now. बहुत प्रोग्राम कर लिए इस पे. Customer use. Click on that. We have first name, last name, email, date, last update, active. Okay. इसमें क्या है? Address ID पे भी perform कर सकते. These are the some values. Okay, what should we do? We will use creation date as attribute ID, and on what date the customer ID will be created. How many customer ID will be created on date? We can count. Okay, first of all, so इसे filter करने की जरूरत है क्या? नहीं. Creation date is available. Last update available है उनका. Last update available है creation date. So ऐसा भी कर सकते हैं. We can choose create date as an attribute or a category, or last update as a category. We can choose. Okay. Along with we need to choose what customer ID also. Okay, so customer ID भी हमें choose करना है. So here I will use what last update, because last update किसका क्या था वो check करेगा. So here we will use a date function, and we need to use last. हम थोड़ा सा different angle से सोच रहे हैं. Select date, last date, and from the table, customer, just hit that, so we get some duplicate values. हमें duplicate values मिलेंगे. See 26, 26, 26. So अभी हमें distinct value चाहिए यहाँ. So for that, what should we do? Just we use the order group by name of attribute as it is. We get the values in distinct values. So यहाँ ऑपरेशन क्या परफॉर्म करेंगे? ओनली वन डेट वे है. वन डेट वे है. जस्ट वी कैन नॉट एबल टू डू द ऑपरेशन बिकॉज हमें एक ही डेट पे क्या करने वाले हैं. ऑल रेस्ट जितने भी काउंट है वो दिखाएगा. चलो लेट्स डू दैट. हियर विल डू व्हाट कस्टमर. इसमें कुछ मजा नहीं है. सी 26 में ऑल कस्टमर लिस्ट दिखा रहा है. अगर डेट डिफरेंट होते तो मे बी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाता. तो आई थिंक we have that option. Just 1 minute. I will use select all table all from the customer. So just will check the attribute another. What should we do? Will we do what? Yeah, create date attribute is there. So we'll use create date attribute. Use create plus for date. यहाँ चेंज करने की जरूरत नहीं है. आई थिंक होप सो द डेट्स आर डिफरेंट. अदरवाइज वो भी कुछ काम का नहीं है हमारा. क्रिएट अंडरस्कोर डेट दैट. Same problem. We cannot do able to perform the operation. Okay. So let's do the same operation on payment table. उसके अंदर multiple options हैं. ये हम perform करके देखते हैं. Select all from payment. From that we have a bunch of options. So we'll apply on customer ID and amount. Use customer. We'll calculate the sum. So just we need to perform the operation. Having clause देखना है हमें कैसे. Yeah, and here we use the one attribute set and just hit it. We get this distinct data customer ID along with sum. Okay, 148 number 184 नाम का जो कस्टमर है, so उसने $80 का ट्रांजेक्शन किया. 87 नाम का जो कस्टमर है उसने ये किया. Like if you require a first name also along with that, then we can use first. That. So we cannot able to do because here we need to add that also. First step. Add करना पड़ेगा. Restrict table name is not exist. Name है क्या फिर? Double that. Select committee. Here is what we did not have an option of customer first name, so that's why I get the error. हमारे पास option ही नहीं है इसके अंदर. We cannot able to do that option. We don't have a column. Okay, forget about that. Just we execute it, we get the certain amount of value. Now what should I do? I want only the data above $100. Okay, just I want to retrieve the customers. Just I want to find out the topmost customer. The topmost customer find out. Okay, so for that we require high uh, usage of dollar. So assume that the dollar must be greater than equals to 100. तो हम ऐसा कर सकते हैं कि ये प्रीमियम लोग हैं बहुत ज़्यादा परचेस करते हैं. So for that just here we'll use having. Before that just I want to use the order by. मुझे order by use करना है. Order by. I want to use customer ID. Customer descending order. Let's see. So to execute that, we get the descending order customer ID. Customer ID मुझे descending order में मिलेगा. And if you require ascending order, use ascending order. The problem is that we require data which is the greater than 100. अब ये sum नाम का attribute है. Right now we have a sum attribute. Okay. Now we need to increase that value. मुझे value increase चाहिए. Okay, so that means we don't want to use $81. We don't want to use $84. And make a note of that this sum is aggregate function. This that sum has aggregate function. Make a note of that. And we cannot able to apply where clause. So for that just we use having clause. For that just we use having clause. So after where we can use, here we need to use having. Sum greater than equals to 100. Yes, I will add the condition. अभी कंडीशन मैंने किसको ऐड की है? सम अमाउंट क्या है? एग्रीगेट फंक्शन. सो आई ऑलरेडी टोल्ड दैट. सो हैविंग क्लॉज विल only applicable for aggregate function. So we cannot able to apply on customer ID and other thing. Make a note of that. Like a clause is applicable for all except group by. Okay, except group by. Similarly, having clause only applicable for the aggregate function. जहाँ aggregate use किया है. So click on that. So we get the data. What is the error? Syntax error. Some syntax error. Just 1 minute. Select customer ID. Some now make it amount from payment group by customer ID. Having sum is greater than. Example, it's trying to use greater than. It. See. We get the data syntactical error था. We get the error. So we get all entries above 100. एक भी entry इसमें less than 100 नहीं है. एक भी entry नहीं है. So we get all the entries. What does it mean? So we can apply on the aggregate function. Having clause will be applicable for the. Okay. So this is about the having clause. So if you get that, if you have any query, let me know. Discuss about that. Suppose user wants to find customer ID greater than 300. कस्टमर आईडी उसे ग्रेटर देन 300 फाइंड आउट करना है. पहले तो ये हैविंग क्लॉज पता होना चाहिए. The operation, just I will quickly revise one challenge. Afterwards you can perform the rest of challenge. What is the challenge? We have a launching a platinum service for our most loyal customers. We'll assign a platinum status to customer that have 40 or more transaction payment. अभी 40 और मोर ट्रांजेक्शन पेमेंट्स हमें काउंट करना है. ओके. व्हाट इज द कस्टमर आईडी आर एलिजिबल फॉर प्लैटिनम स्टेटस के लिए कौन से कस्टमर आईडी अवेलेबल है? सो लेट्स डू दैट ऑपरेशन. अभी इसे हमें परफॉर्म करना है. फॉर दैट पेमेंट टेबल इज अगेन रिक्वायर्ड. सेलेक्ट ऑल फ्रॉम. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल पहले हमें थिंग्स एनालाइज करना है क्या क्या हो सकता है. So we have amount and we have customer ID. We will use these two attribute, this one and this one. So let's do that. So we'll use customer ID as a category, and for aggregate function we'll use amount. We'll use cost. Now, what operation we required? We need to count that how many transactions are there, because here top customer that have had 40 or more transaction. So in the amount मतलब in the form of dollar नहीं चाहिए, just count चाहिए. So for that here I will use count. Instead of that I will just use asterisk symbol. We can use any attribute. Amount use करो, कुछ भी use करो. Don't worry about that. We get the same out. So payment, and here what should I do? Here I will use group by. Use customer ID. We get the data. That you get a certain amount of data. See, count is there, customer ID is there, 184 ने 20 transaction किए, 87 ने 28 किए, like that stuff. So for that, just we required a data in a proper format. So for that we use order by. Order by some PPT is a yes, check. Now is it visible to all? Now is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just I will quickly revise this point. So for that we require to use what are the customer IDs are eligible for platinum status. and we have a certain condition for platinum status. The value, the transaction must be greater than 40. Okay. So what should I do here? I will use select all transactions from payment. So first of all, we need to analyze that. First of all, we need to analyze the table and just it as it is. So we have the amount and we have the customer ID. So for each customer, like customer ये है एक दो तीन चार पाँच, सो आपके सामने 6 ट्रांजेक्शन हुए इस कस्टमर 341 के, तो हमें ये काउंट करना है. ओके, सो विल यूज कैटेगरी एज अ कस्टमर आईडी एंड फॉर अमाउंट एज एग्रीगेट फंक्शन. अमाउंट को एग्रीगेट फंक्शन कंसीडर करेंगे. सो हियर विल यूज कस्टमर अंडरस्कोर आईडी comma, in that we need to count the actual transaction. We did not want to count the amount. So here for use count in round bracket, just use asterisk symbol. If you want to use amount, then you can use. Okay, but ये lengthy process होगा. That means आपकी क्यूरी एसक्यूएल क्यूरी बढ़ेगी. That's it. ये दोनों का भी same output आता है. Okay, so here we'll use group by, and here I will use that. uh, and category name customer underscore ID. Okay, so when we click on that, we get the certain amount of data. Okay, but the data is not in proper format. So what should I do? We'll use before that, just we'll use the having clause in that section. The count must be greater than equals to 40. Count क्या है? 40 or more transaction. That means greater than equal to 5. So here just we'll use what having clause. Having after the count in round bracket, here I will use asterisk symbol, that greater than equals to 40. That greater than equals to 40. ट्रांजेक्शन मुझे उसके काउंट के ट्रांजेक्शन, दैट मीन्स इसने काउंट क्या किया है कि 184 डिड 20 ट्रांजेक्शन, 87 डिड 28 ट्रांजेक्शन, 477 डिड 21 transactions. Okay, so having count. Okay, so just we need to count greater than equal to 40. So hit that, we get the output. See, we did only these 3 transactions. Okay, these transactions are not in proper format. So what should we do? We use order by. What which attribute we require? Customer id. So here I will require customer underscore id as in ascending order. Okay, so we get that data. See, 144, 148 and 526 like that. Okay, so आपको यूज करना है तो करो, otherwise नहीं कि एक quickly revise भी concept होता है. So this is your solution. Okay, so ऐसे हमें बहुत टास्क करने पड़ते हैं तो आगे जाके हम थोड़े से परफेक्टनेस बनते हैं. सो जस्ट पढ़ना अलग थिंग है और जो पढ़ के हमें नॉलेज अप्लाई करना है ये अलग थिंग है. ओके, सो आई विल सजेस्ट डू वन थिंग, आप रेगुलर प्रैक्टिस करो और ये आगे चल के भी क्विकली वीडियोस रिवाइज करते चलो, सो आपको आइडिया ज़्यादा आएगा इसका. ओके, सो दिस इज व्हाट एक्सपेक्टेड आंसर 144, I26, 148, 40, 42 and 54. So hint मैंने दे दिया solution challenge 2. So just you need to do that challenge. What are the customer IDs of customer who have spent more than 100 payment transaction with our staff ID member 2? ये थोड़ा सा quite confusing है, but अगर ये solve करते हो ना तो आपके concept पूरे clear हो गए. ऐसा assume करना है. ये clearly read करो. कस्टमर 2 के हिसाब से आपको ट्रांजेक्शन फाइंड आउट, कस्टमर आईडी फाइंड आउट करने, मतलब जिसने ज्यादा ग्रेटर देन $100 ट्रांजेक्शन किए हैं. ओके, बट उसका सेल्समैन आईडी क्या चाहिए? स्टाफ आईडी 2 चाहिए. हियर वी नीड टू यूज अ वेयर क्लॉज. आई विल गिव द हिंट. We need to use a where clause. Okay, so just you need to do the task. Just 1 minute. Just आपने so इसका एक स्नैपशॉट निकालो. प्रतीक याचा स्नॅपशॉट काढ एक आणि ग्रुपवर टाकून दे. ओके, आय डिडंट वांट टू idea. I am not able to provide this snapshot right now. Okay, so just click on the snapshot and post it on a group. Okay, and similarly just minute. I left the meeting. Let's click on that. Just 1 minute. Where the different. बोले प्रतीक जस्ट इसका भी स्नैपशॉट निकालो असेसमेंट वन these are the question you need to solve this question okay it is mandatory ये मैंडेटरी है ऑल स्टूडेंट के लिए मैं रिपोर्ट देखने वाला हूँ इस बार पूरे डीबीएमएस के आई टुक मोर टाइम ऑन दैट ओके सो अगर आप अच्छे से रिपोर्ट क्रिएट करते हो तो ही वो आगे चल के यूजफुल रहेगा नहीं तो नहीं so, इसका भी एक स्नैपशॉट निकालो again this is question 2 or otherwise I will use this type question 2 shall I click on next this one is the last question 3 so you need to solve these three questions in assessment one okay ये आपके जो भी आपके कंसेप्ट मैंने अभी तक पढ़ा है ये बेसिक पूरा कंप्लीट हो गया हमारा and in that also basic already we completed also we completed the group by okay and after now we are doing the what we are doing the assessment okay now from the next lecture for joins are there joins okay so for that joins we required three lectures okay and after that advanced SQL we required three lectures 3 plus 3 6 and for database we required one lecture and for procedures we required one lecture and for Python we required one lecture मतलब 6 plus 3 9 total 9 lectures are remaining for your internship so carefully you can perform that practical क्योंकि कल का चैप्टर बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है ज्वाइंस आपके सिलेबस में भी है ज्वाइंस पूरे और ये बहुत हेक्टिक भी है मतलब थोड़े से हार्डर भी है सो इसलिए कॉन्सेप्ट क्लियर करना पड़ेगा आपके फॉर दैट रीजन जस्ट अटेंड द लेक्चर रेगुलर बेसिस